is not going to be your typical sales hacker webinar. This will be a little bit different. We don't usually dive this deep into marketing, but because the demand has been there and we've been getting so much inbound requests for how can salespeople take individual action to step up their marketing game? How can they play a role in their company's marketing efforts? That's why we're doing this today. That's why we have Sujan here, expert, who's going to take us through so many different things today. We're really excited, and let's just get right into it.
Awesome.
Let's do this.
Do this. All right. So just before we dive deep into all the great insights and actionable tactics that you can do as a salesperson to step up your marketing game, we're going to lay down the agenda real quick. And the first step there is we're going to get into the marketing mindset from the sales perspective. We're going to talk about leveraging the right marketing channels, a breakdown of actionable lead generation strategies, some simple techniques you can do to start and advance your sales conversations online through your marketing efforts. And we're going to have some time at the end, hopefully, for questions and follow-up. And that's the breakdown for today. All right, so before we get into all that, Sujan, why don't you introduce yourself to the Sales Hacker audience? We're super excited and thrilled to have you today. We're gonna get so much knowledge from you. But before you open up your brain to us, why don't you break down some of the stuff you've been doing lately and tell our audience what they should know about you and how they can find you.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a marketer specifically focused on growth and user acquisition. So I've been doing this for the last 14 years, and I currently run an agency called Web Profits, where we do lots of different growth-related services. And honestly, in my career, some of the most successful things I've had has been working with the sales team, the kind of sales enablement, customer success, support, and really things outside of marketing to make marketing work the best. And so a lot of what we've been doing lately is just focusing on how to get two people or two teams to work together and adding marketing flair to a sales organization, so a salesperson. So again, I wrote a book a few years ago that sold over 40,000 copies called 100 Days of Growth. And again, on a growth hacking related topic, but it's so easy to apply a lot of these principles to sales and non-marketing roles. I think a lot of people miss out on the opportunity, and today what we're going to talk about is exactly how to take that kind of marketing flair, things that marketers do on a daily basis, and apply it to a sales role.
Awesome. All right. I'm not going to toot my own horn that much. I'm just get through this part fast. I don't want you guys to think I'm tooting my own horn that much. But just a quick little rundown of who I am and what I do. You can see that picture there. It's a little bit different than marketing, right? It's because I got my marketing career from doing music. I was producing major records for independent and signed artists on labels, but some of the artists I work with, Shaggy, Fat Joe, Ryan Leslie, I've been pretty blessed to be able to work with some good names in music, and I took what I learned from basically scrapping my own sort of marketing strategy together for my music career, and I applied that to the business world. And I was fortunate enough early in my career to work with some great SEO practitioners, leaders, and I was thrown into the mix pretty quickly, and I was fortunate enough to work with some great brands like MLB, Mattermark, and all the way down to Sales Hacker today. And previously, before Sales Hacker, I was at a great company, Pipedrive, so I learned a lot about SaaS and CRMs and sales, and I think it was a great sort of transition from there to Sales Hacker, and I love what I do, and I'm really fortunate and happy to be with the Sales Hacker team. And next, but certainly not last but least, Jack, would you like to introduce yourself to the team?
Absolutely. So Jack Kozakowski, I'm mainly a sales guy that uses marketing as his weapon to drive sales conversations and business. And, I'm sure a lot of people in the sales hacker community probably have interacted with or engaged with in some level. And I'm super excited for this because I truly believe that in today's selling environment, that marketing is sales, sales is marketing. Now, how much marketing do you do if you're in sales, or how much, sales do you do if you're in marketing? That really kind of is determined by your skill set. So hopefully we can give you some actionable takeaways so that you can increase that skill set, add to your toolkit. And I'm telling you, if you do this stuff, it makes your life a lot easier. And one thing I will say about Sujin is, I know Sujin pretty well, and he sold an agency for a few $1 million before, and he's into a second one. I mean, this guy is not a content marketer at heart. Really, he's a salesperson, and he masks it with his really, really good marketing skills. So don't let him fool you.
Yeah, Susan, before we move on, tell us a little bit about what's going on with your companies now. I know you got Web Profits. You're dealing with a number of other ventures. What's going on that front before we dive in?
Yeah, so Web Profits is my second agency. I started a company prior to that called Single Grain and sold it. Still up and running, by a good friend. It's funny now. My own company has started as a competitor of mine, so it's a fairly interesting dynamic. But I also run a slew of SaaS businesses under the company Ramp Ventures. Most notably, probably most people might know these companies. Mailshake.com, it's a sales cold email tool. So oddly enough, we run a sales company ourselves. Again, like just kind of taking a marketer's more data-driven take on how to kind of doing sales. We have Q, which is a social kind of media platform, and a few other companies. Essentially, I started solving problems for myself. I kind of did some market validation, asked a few of my marketing friends, and see if they would be interested in purchasing or interested in solutions, and then we built them. And so it's really funny because we have a handful of marketing, sales, and social media tools that essentially we built for ourselves only after validating demand. Between Web Profits and that, it keeps me pretty busy.
I'll tell you right now, the best tool that he ever built, and if you're on this webinar right now, I'll tell you, go download it, is Narrow.io. Phenomenal tool if you're looking to build an audience on Twitter.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to talk too much about kind of our tools and whatnot, but Narrow, like you said, Jack, is a great tool to essentially, if you're just getting started with your social media presence and building your personal brand. We'll get into that a little bit more detail later, but awesome tool just to get things off the ground and get some momentum. And QUU.co is on the other end. So Narrow, what it does is helps you build your Twitter following by engaging, liking, following people related to specific keywords. Like you can do your websites, the most common, most popular hashtags or blogs in the space. So I have Sales Hacker as on there, and I have a lot of my competitors that I engage with. So anytime somebody mentions my competitor, my Twitter profile is automatically trolling these things and engaging conference hashtags and whatnot. And then Q on the other end, what I have is, if you're just getting started again or don't have the manpower or time, I just set up a few on a few of my company profiles. We don't have the time or bandwidth to go and do social media, so we just set up Q, selected the sales category or marketing category, and we automatically share good stuff that is submitted by other people. So between Q and Narrow, we solve our own problems of creating or sharing good content. And before we jump in again, I want to just share one thing is on the marketing side, it's not really, it's not important to just create content. A lot of people don't have that time. Curating content, being the sharer of great information, I can see you guys nodding your heads. Yeah, being the sharer of great information is just as good, and can be done in a fraction of that time.
Absolutely, that's huge. We're going to get into all this stuff in great detail coming up in the presentation here. So let's just get right into it. But before that, I think this kind of sets the tone for what we're about to jump into today. Do sales reps really have marketing responsibilities in 2017? Why can't they just leave it all to the marketing teams and focus on closing deals? Why do salespeople have to be active on LinkedIn? Why do salespeople have to be building their personal brands? I'm going to direct this to Sujin first. I'll let you take the first kind of stab at this one, bite the head off of it, if you will. But what's going on here, Sujin? What's your take on this? Because this is kind of like, 50-50. I feel like some salespeople are like, nah, I don't need to be doing this marketing stuff. And then, you got the other kind of part of the pool saying, wow, I really need to step up my marketing game if I want to stand out and cut through the noise. So what's happening?
Yeah. So there's two big reasons, and I'll go into kind of the first one. Doing marketing for yourself, like whether it's a personal brand or your company or just kind of the person doing the sale, it's essentially going to increase your response rate. If you're doing if you're having an email conversation, it's going to decrease the friction because you're perceived as an expert, right? If you're adding value, if you're selling a software versus educating on someone on how they can leverage a software, the latter is more meaningful of a conversation. Doing marketing for yourself, building a personal brand helps you fit into that latter bucket of a practitioner, a person who's going to help somebody leverage a software versus sell somebody a software. Nobody wants to buy a software. They want to buy a solution to something, right? They have a problem to solve. And doing marketing for yourself helps you kind of fit in that category. The second thing is it helps you stand out from the competition, right? Everybody's selling these days. We're in the age in 2017 where we have a lot, marketing and sales due to technology has been at its all-time high, meaning everybody's selling. Everybody has the great features, downtime, functionality is very, very hard to differentiate yourself from somebody else. And so the way you differentiate yourself is actually being a human being, having a character, having something to say, right? Like, so I've seen and I've won deals on the software side just because people like our blog. People like my content. And look, I'm not a salesperson on a day-to-day basis, but I've won deals because people like my marketing stuff. And so why not give yourself a competitive advantage?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Jack, what's your take on this? I know you're probably itching to just give us what's in your mind. Spell it all out there for us.
So if you don't know me, this is something that I'm super passionate about. So if I get really crazy and loud, that's my passion. And if you see me writing notes, because I'm writing notes as I go, so the first thing I wanted to say was, in sales, the one thing that we're all trying to get is attention. And if you aren't using these new social channels where your buyers are living on and communicating and telling you everything about them personally and professionally, you just don't understand what's happening in sales. You don't understand what's happening to the buyer. So it's not that you have to do marketing, but if you want to stay relevant and you don't want to get your ass kicked in the long run, you have to do marketing. The digital has changed the way that we do sales. It's changed. So I always say this to a salesperson. Everything we do in sales starts with the conversation and ends with the conversation. And where you have that conversation is no longer just the phone, and it's no longer just email. So the other thing is, you've got to get visible, valuable, and connected to your buyers proactively. And you've got to start doing it in a way that nobody else is doing it, because buyers are essentially seeing the same messages that come through the same channels, and it's a lot of ask versus value, I like to say it. So in sales today with the digital, you have to be able to figure out, how do I create conversation, strengthen conversation, and influence conversation in the full sales process from online conversation to offline revenue using digital touch points. And you literally have to look at marketing as the touch points in your sales process now, And that doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of time. I think one of the things we're going to talk about, as we go through here is we don't think you should be spending your whole day doing marketing, but you should set aside and block off part of your day to do some marketing activities, which some people call marketing activities. What I call them is actually sales activities or touches in your sales process. So it's a whole different perception of how you look at this and the way that things are changing. Marketing is blending with sales and sales is blending with marketing. There's no way around it.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I was at Pipe Drive, we sort of we sort of took this philosophy and really tried to make it a cultural thing within the company internally. I was sitting right next to the island of sales reps all day long. And, we would go back and forth during lunch breaks. What could they do to step up their marketing activities? I would give them little tidbits here and there. Hey, just do this on LinkedIn. Start doing this on your social profiles. And it just takes a little bit of work, like you said, small activities that can make a big deal at the end of the day. So it's all about those touch points. Nobody comes to a website for the first time, reads a blog post, and buys something. You can't be that one-night stand marketer or that one-night stand salesperson like that popular article just came out on LinkedIn. I forgot who wrote it, but it was awesome. So we'll get more into this as we get through the deck. All right, so diving into the marketing mindset, Sujan, I just want to start with this. A lot of salespeople that haven't done marketing before or they're new to marketing, how do they step out of their comfort zone? Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges for a new person that's trying to do marketing for the first time or is very new at marketing. They don't know where to start. It's uncomfortable. It's a new realm. It's a new space for them. What should they do to get started? How do they step out of their comfort zone? And how could they make that commitment of doing one marketing activity per week?
Yeah, so I totally get it. Marketing seems super daunting, and there's so much information out there. There's so many things you can do. It's hard to kind of get that first action in place and then to keep it consistent. So I think the first thing to do is go, if you have a marketing, if you're in an organization where there's a marketing team, go sit down with the VP of marketing. Go sit down with the folks on the other end. And I encourage marketers to do the exact same thing, right? Like what you want to hear a lot of times is on the sales side, you are receiving leads from the marketing team. Go see what they're doing to get those leads. Go see what content they're creating. Go get the top marketing initiatives that are happening that month, that week, that quarter, and maybe even the top pieces of content or ebooks or whatever they're doing, because those are things if you can just pick up and continue that conversation during your sales calls, that's going to be a much better handoff, a much better conversation than if you weren't acknowledging that. Number two is get on social media and just start sharing good information, right? I mean, Jack does this all the time. Just share good and relevant information. And again, go get that information. You don't have to do that hard work. I bet the marketing team is dying to give you this information anyways. So go get that information from your marketing team. Like, hey, what are the 10 articles that I should be sharing? What are the things that are being talked about? Now, the same goes the other way around. Go talk to the marketing team and say, guys, these are the conversations you're having. Like, for example, what I do, and we just got one of our sales guys at Web Profits to do this for himself. And the first thing we did was like, okay, hey, Travis, this is our sales guy at Web Profits. Say, hey, Travis, tell me the top 5 questions customers or potential customers are asking you. And, we found out if, our average deal size or our annual contract value is about $100,000, people are asking like, okay, who's going to work on the contract? Who's going to do the work? What differentiates you from other agencies? What kind of marketing do you do for yourself? Like, are you guys actually practicing what you preach? And so I literally, as a marketer, went and created all this content. I created a video of behind the scenes of our team and who you're going to work with, how we work, and subliminally it also differentiates us from the others and because of our team structure and layout. But again, at the end of our initial sales call, Now Travis is just saying, hey guys, here's 3 helpful articles about what we do and what makes us different. And it's content that's selling. Now we also use it as top of the funnel, but but again, the point being is go get those questions answered. If you're a salesperson, you don't have to actually wait. So how to get started? Go answer them yourself. If you do just a bad job at answering these questions and you just say you put them on Medium or LinkedIn, I guarantee you the marketer is going to pay attention and help you either fix it if you did a bad job or polish it up if you did a decent job and make you look like a rock star.
Awesome. Yeah, totally agree. Jack, what's your thoughts here, man? Give it to us.
So are we just covering stepping out of your comfort zone?
you can tackle as much as you want.
Okay, so the first thing I would say is stepping out of your comfort zone. So a lot of you on this call are in sales, and a lot of times your comfort zone and why you're not good at cold calling or asking for stuff you don't deserve is because you're actually not comfortable doing it. So you might want to reverse this psychology and say, do I feel good about the way that I'm selling? Am I getting the results from doing the same thing over and over and over? And a lot of times, if we play the law of the 80-20 rule, where 80% of reps aren't doing what they need to do to get to where they need to be, then you're probably doing something that's out of your comfort zone, or you're just not working hard enough, right? So I would say that maybe you need to start slowly adding some marketing activities into your sales process. What I'll tell you is that I love to use marketing as my value weapon to drive more sales conversations, to move sales deals through the pipeline faster. And then on top of that, I'd love to use it so that I stay in touch with my customers, so that I'm getting the upsells and I'm watching what's going on in their company, and I'm showing that I'm more than just a sales guy. I'm an advocate for their business. I'm going to drive you more business. And that whole ideology, when you start to think about, it's not necessarily a marketing activity that's driving it. You're looking at a sales activity. Sorry, my thing just closed. Okay, so the other thing that I would say is that you've got to think about content. Content creates conversation. But really, if you think about it, content creates value, and value creates conversation. And if you can create conversation, you're going to create opportunity. It's just a science. Content is the competitive advantage to getting attention, to showing people in a value versus ask way that you are somebody that they should have a conversation with that probably knows enough to be able to fix their business problem. And if you think about everything you do in sales, if you're a salesperson, think about everything you do. Everything you do daily is driven by content. Content from what you watch, what you read. Everything we do is content. You have to be the source and the provider of that content, because if you think about it, when a CEO wakes up in the morning, he goes to his desk, and most CEOs are reading the newspaper, industry trends, what's going on with my competitors, what does the market look like in the next 3 years, what new technologies are coming out. If you're in your industry, you want to be one of those sources that the CEOs in your industry wake up and they go to your Twitter feed because you have all the best content. They go to your LinkedIn feed because they know that you're going to provide that source for them. And it does not take a lot of time to do this. You need the right tools, you need a process, and you need a commitment. And if you do those things, you will make your life a lot easier, and you'll quit having to beg for business, and you'll start getting conversations from people that actually want to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. I'll give an actionable tip here on the commitment to doing one marketing activity per week. And I can tell you right now, I just started doing this 2 months ago, and at least one time per month, I'm getting a lead for marketing services by doing this. And because I'm too busy, I cannot take on those leads, so I pass them off to my friends. But the one thing that you can do that's very, very easy, if you're bold, you're courageous, and you want to start stepping out of your comfort zone, you want to commit to doing one marketing activity per week as a salesperson, create a Quora profile if you haven't done that already, and start answering popular Quora threads that you're credible on and you're knowledgeable on. Do that one time per week. You answer one Quora question per week. That's 4 answers per month times 12. That's 48 answers. you're going to generate views. If you answer those questions the right way, you're going to drive traffic to your personal blog, to your company site. You can drive traffic to whatever you want, and you'll be able to build up your own thought leadership and step out of your comfort zone in a really simple and sort of organized fashion. That doesn't take too much effort.
Yeah, that's a great actionable tip. I think another thing, just to stick on the actionable tip side, is go on your social profiles and ask questions, open-ended questions. This will do two things. One, you'll start getting people answering questions, like people like thinking about, oh, that's a good idea. Like what like you can just ask questions like, in this example, it says what else can salespeople, or who else can salespeople learn from? Like, you can just ask on LinkedIn, like, who are the top salespeople in your opinion? Like, what's the difference between sales and marketing? And it's not the answer you want. It's the engagement. It's that conversation. If you're known, if you have a social profile and a prospect sees you, and they see like 30 comments on the last 5 things you said, that's not sales. That's marketing. That's branding. The second thing is all these social networks, LinkedIn especially these days, their algorithm optimizes for engagement. So if you just ask questions and get high engagement, your stuff gets on the top. I can go into the details, but the simple fact is you create posts that get lots of engagement, and the more visibility you get. And if you ask a question, that's a shortcut to get high engagement.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I'll go one step further. So a lot of sales reps on here, I would ask you, have you connected with your buyers? So if you've been doing business for people for 10 years and you're in sales, I laugh all the time because one of the simplest ways to get new business is to go after people you've already done business with. So take the time after we get off this call to go back and think about customers you've done business with in the past and send them an invite on LinkedIn and just say, hey, you know what? Just wanted to touch base. I noticed we weren't connected, and go through that. Go follow those people on Twitter. Look in their LinkedIn profiles and just get connected with people. That's the number one way that you're going to start at least going for the low-hanging fruit using social media without doing a lot of work. The second thing I would say, and this one's really actionable, is if you've got a list of accounts and you're inside of Salesforce, take 20 minutes per day and go inside of these people's LinkedIn accounts, go to their Twitter accounts, and find one actionable piece of content that has insight that would drive some personal or business value to them. And when I say that is, if you sell to marketers and you see that they have a webinar coming up, you see it on their Twitter profile, take that and take the content from that and go and tweet it and tag them in it. Show somebody that you can drive business value to them personally and professionally. But the other thing when you're doing that is go into LinkedIn Publish. So if you go into somebody's personal LinkedIn profile, if they've written a piece of content, it will be in their profile. Go into that content, like it to show that you're visible, comment on it to show that you're valuable, share it on Twitter and LinkedIn, tag them in it to show that you're valuable. And the third thing to that is once conversation is created, drive the connection. And those are simple things that will take you a lot farther than the average sales rep who's just begging for business because you're using the insights to drive business value to these people.
100%. 100%. Keeping it 100. Let's move on. All right, so leveraging the right marketing channels. We kind of lightly brushed on this, really lightly, but let's get into the more nitty-gritty here. There's so many things you can do now. There's really no excuse. I'm gonna just keep it real right now. There's really no excuse. There's personal websites. You see all these ridiculous YouTube ads now with Wix and all these easy set up a personal website. Boom, 1, 2, 3. If you don't want a personal website, you can use sites like Medium. Obviously, Jack and Susan, you guys said LinkedIn Publisher. I know I utilize that. You guys definitely utilize that pretty heavily. That's a huge one for salespeople. Should you be building an email list? Yes, you should. It's the short answer, but how do you go do that? And then we already talked about Quora a little bit, but we'll dive in. But Sujan, I don't know, man. There's so much stuff going on here. Break it down for us. How can we sort of organize this and attack it?
Yeah, so look, there's a lot of things you can do. Let's start with, let's remove the barriers or friction, and let's start with one thing. Take your LinkedIn and use LinkedIn publishing to create content. The reason being is that LinkedIn publishing is you're publishing on that social network, and so you're getting in front of a lot of people, and it's going to increase your chances of getting accidentally lucky. Meaning, like, if you just do everything all wrong, and then you get like 3 people who like it, or what I did when I first started, you beg 3 of your friends to like it at the same time. Like marketing it's just as difficult. You just have to beg, borrow, steal your way through the bottom to like get somebody to give a crap about you. So like you're a salesperson, you go get your 10, 15 friends to go like your stuff and help each other out. So I think creating an ecosystem around that is really helpful. And you'll be surprised how encouraging and how helpful people are if you're just saying and admit like, hey, I'm just getting started. Acknowledge the fact that you're just like a newbie. I found that to work well because then people people like the fact that others are trying and struggling or like getting out of their comfort zone. So start with LinkedIn publishing. I think a personal website is probably the more advanced thing to do. If you get LinkedIn publishing to work, start putting it on your website. Medium is great. However, it's limited in terms of the things you can do, things you can control, but the limitation is countered by it's intuitive and it requires nothing to make a good-looking article come out. So if you don't care to own things, I would go with Medium, and frankly, do LinkedIn publishing and copy that exact article onto Medium, and it'll work well as well. So you can do the exact same thing. Now, if you're thinking about, and this is what I'd like to do to get started, is I create content by curating content. So what I recommend doing is just taking, writing weekly, but not necessarily writing a whole, 5,000 word article. Take your, first just look for good content and maybe make a practice of weekly publishing an article, maybe on Friday or on Monday, about like 5 articles people should read in your industry. And every week, let's say you do that a couple times, now get to the next step, make it themed or create a clever title for the article. So what you're doing is you're curating content, and it's literally an intro, paragraph, article 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want to get a little bit more fancy, describe each article you're talking about, telling people why. I like to use bullet points because then I'm making it very scannable for everyone else. Let's take it to the next level now. You've done this for a month or two. People are engaging on LinkedIn. You put it to Medium. People are engaging there. Great. Now you're leveraging Twitter and LinkedIn. The next step is probably building an email list. Again, building an email list it's complicated. It's technical. I recommend using this software called GetRevue. It's GetRevue.co. Review essentially is a software that helps you do create a email newsletter. And the email newsletter is essentially that LinkedIn post that you're going to be sending to your email list. What I would do is go export your LinkedIn contacts. In fact, like embarrassingly as a marketer, I should have had an email list and been doing email marketing from day one. I was lazy. I didn't. I started in 2015 or 14. I pretty much exported all of my Google contacts and all of my LinkedIn contacts when LinkedIn was a little friendlier on that front. And I just put them all into MailChimp, and I sent an email saying, hey guys, starting a newsletter. Here's my favorite content for the week. By the way, if you want to, if I added you by mistake or you don't want to opt out, and I pretty much gave them an opt out. And by just sending that one email to all of my contacts and all my LinkedIn contacts, or email and LinkedIn contacts, I literally got 5 clients out of it. It turns out I had, VCs on my email list. I've had, old colleagues, old friends, and again, like, it just kind of primed things up. So, they say in sales, you should be following up. No one's going to just kind of interact in the first thing, but definitely by creating a newsletter and just emailing people, let's say weekly or bi-weekly or even monthly, you're automating that follow-up by getting proactive. So I'll let you guys talk. I've shared a lot of things here.
Yeah, tons of gems there. I know, Jack, you've got a lot of knowledge on this stuff too. Lay it on us.
Yeah, so I would highly suggest, especially if you're new and you don't really have any marketing experience, it's short-term wins equal long-term gains. So I would say start with LinkedIn, but also I would say start with where your buyers live. I mean, I don't know, everybody's probably in different industries. So if you sell candles, you might want to be on Pinterest. I don't know what that is, right? So you have to determine, we're talking to a B2B audience in most cases at Sales Hacker, but there might be other people, other industries. Figure out where your buyer lives and spend your time starting there. One channel, figure out that one channel, create conversation from that one channel. And, one of the things that I think is changing is the way that we look at marketing. In sales, I always say that I look at marketing from a sales perspective as an outbound activity, that I'm using inbound, using inbound as a way to start outbound activity. And what I mean by that is, on LinkedIn, if I publish something, and I'm thinking about sales content versus marketing content. Sales content to me means I hear the same theme over and over on calls. I hear the same buyers say the same thing. And I'm going, I look at our marketing, and we don't have any marketing collateral on this, right? So I say to myself, you know what? I'm going to write about this. It's going to be super short, but it's going to be the value weapon that I use proactively in my sales process so that I can eliminate buyers using the same rebuttal over and over. I write that piece of content, which I call that a sales piece of content, because marketing content's written one-to-many. You need to look at sales content as written one-to-one. It fixes one person's business problem, and it's the common theme of many people that you talk to. Publish that on your LinkedIn, and now the beautiful part of this is you now have value for your cold email outreach. And where a lot of people say is, well, my buyer's not on social. Well, that's great, but your content is on social, and your content is on your LinkedIn profile. So by putting that in your cold email to drive them and say, hey, you know what? I hear this common theme in the industry. I'm sure you're going through it. Here's how I think you can fix it. You now automatically drive them into your LinkedIn profile. So you're leveraging your LinkedIn profile as your website in the beginning stages. The rest of this stuff, I will tell you, you don't get into that until you've really seen the little short-term wins just from LinkedIn or one channel.
Agreed. Yeah, you should definitely be mastering LinkedIn or Medium first, since it's very, very low effort. It doesn't require any technical knowledge. It requires nothing. All it requires is a little bit of research on what you want to talk about, formulating your argument or your thought in a way that's going to resonate to your audience, and just starting off slowly but surely. So yeah, you guys pretty much nailed it on the head. I don't really need to go that much deeper into this. That was awesome. Let's get into the next part here about personal branding, because this is sort of like the one hand that washes the other. We talked about how to get things started, but if you want to really take it to the next level, there's some salespeople that have really 10x to 100x their awareness as a thought leader, as an expert in their particular niche of sales, whether you're an SDR or you're an AE, or we've had people on Sales Hacker publish about how to close enterprise deals in extremely niche industries, such as port terminal deals and all sorts of stuff that you would never even think about. So let's get into this, and I'll start it off with Susan. What is a thought leader in any industry, and how do you become one? And do you think that becoming a thought leader will help you earn more leads and close more deals organically? Let's just start right there.
Hands down, being a thought leader helps you close more deals. The reason being is it makes people want to talk to you. It goes from like you're being this outbound sales, you're selling something, to like you're providing value. And then you can kind of, if you are selling something, make people aware of that, and you just have to sell less. You have to push less. And one of my few favorite places. So we already talked about writing, right? Curating content, publishing, where to go. that's actually the first step. You're actually building your personal brand by doing that. The best way to do that is time, right? Consistency and time. So weekly, do it for 3 years. The people who have the biggest brands, like look at Gary Vee. He's just been doing it for freaking 15 years. And yeah, nobody sees your content the first year. A little bit more people see it the second year. It is the long game. There is no real shortcut to personal branding. The next thing, number 2, is video. Video it's been around forever, but it's quickly becoming the main channel of a lot of social platforms. Facebook Live, even LinkedIn, YouTube is huge. Like there is more and more there are more and more channels. Look at this webinar. We all have our video on. I would say 3 years ago would have a deck and we had no video, but you can see our smiles, you can see our nodding, all of us, and kind of it engages. So what I love about video is that it adds this emotional or this connection with people. So you could say, I would literally do a video of your written content. And in fact, like if you look at my YouTube channel, all of my videos are literally my best performing content, either simplified or explained differently. A lot of times it's dumbed down because it's more entry-level audience, but essentially my YouTube gets a tenth of my visitors or a tenth of the traffic I get to my site, but it gets 10 to 15 times the engagement. So a typical article gets about 5,000 views for my site because it goes out to my email list and blah, blah, blah. My video, if I'm lucky, I get 500 views. But I get so much engagement on the video, and I get emails from people saying like, oh, I watched this video, I loved it, and they're giving me specifics on how valuable that video was. So I love video because it's just it shows that emotion, and again, like anybody can write. There's a lot of writers out there. Not everybody's an expert. Not everybody can take that like written form into like actual tangible advice. Now, the last thing I want to just share on this front is live video. If you want to take it one step further, if you can leverage Facebook Live, I think LinkedIn has something of that nature these days, but Facebook Live or these places are really awesome because what it does is it lowers the quality requirement. You can just be on your phone and be like vertical video with like walking down the street. In fact, if you do a Facebook Live walking down the street and you live in New York, that's actually a good thing because you're just like, it looks like there's action, there's activity, the background constantly changing. So it removes the need for a professional quality video, and it connects people with other people, and it kind of humanizes things.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you said, breaking down the barriers, removing that friction, that's what it's all about. And to the point of making videos, especially in sales, one of the problems, and for everybody that doesn't know, I run all the content marketing for Sales Hacker. One of the challenges, I think, especially in sales, is we want to do the articles that are really informative, they're long form, they have a lot of text, but guess what? They don't have time to read it. So how are we getting around that? We're really focusing on a video strategy now. For our contributors, I'm asking them to I'm asking salespeople to step out of their comfort zone and create videos. It's time to, you can no longer hide behind the screen. You can't hide behind the text anymore. It's time to get out into the forefront. Like you said, Susan, you got to bring that emotion. You got to bring that personality to the content that you're delivering. People want to see you. They want to see who you are, how you deliver a message. And furthermore, it kind of, it shows that you do have that expertise. Such as, the best example of this I can ever think of is Rand Fishkin with Whiteboard Friday and Maz, specifically breaking down how to do something on a whiteboard step by step. Not saying that all videos need to be that quality, but just talking through your points that you're making in an article is a huge deal. And Jack, I know you have many thoughts and experiences with doing this, so what can you share on this front, Jack?
So I absolutely hate the word thought leader. I think it's so yeah. I would say that what you need to strive to do is to be the smartest guy in the room when it comes to your industry, or smartest gal in the room. Being a thought leader, it doesn't drive business. I can tell you right now that I have, Sujin probably can relate to this. We have a lot of visibility, but does that mean that my phone rings off the hook all day because people want to do business with me? That's absolutely not true. It's absurd to even think that. If you've got great marketing behind you, yes, maybe. But in sales, what you need to strive to do is just to know and have the most wisdom. And when you have the most wisdom for your buyers in your niche realm, people want to have conversations with you. That doesn't necessarily mean they want to do business with you, because you have to still do the outbound piece. This is not, this isn't a fix for a bad salesperson, but this does help your case when you get on with the phone with somebody and they already kind of know who you are. They've kind of read about you. They've read some stuff that you do. You don't have to fight the thing in sales where you're, can I get 2 references? Can I get a referral? You don't have to fight that when you actually become the industry expert versus a thought leader. And, this is another thing, is this is short-term wins equal long-term gains. Don't try to be, the next Jay Bear or the next Rand Fishkin. Just try to be the one that knows the most in your industry and educates before everybody else can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great tips. We got about 13 minutes left, so I'm going to get moving on these slides. We've got a few more to go. So now here's really the meat and potatoes of this whole presentation here. We're going to get into the most actionable strategies, actionable tactics that you can do right now to step up your marketing game as a salesperson, get those sales conversations going. I'm going to kick it off with the classic Gary V sort of trademark statement here: document versus create. Susan, you already went into some detail here on this, with the Facebook Live and things of that nature, but how can salespeople start documenting and not worry about creating? I know you mentioned curation as another tactic there, but aside from that, people are trying to figure out how do they decide on the right topics that are relevant to what they're credible on speaking on. It's relevant to the brand. It's relevant to the buyers. How can all this kind of come together, and what actionable takeaways can we give our audience here on what to do?
Yeah, I think what the biggest thing is asking questions to prospects, or when you're just getting feedback of like, hey, what are you looking, what are things that is holding you back, or what are you looking for? What kind of information would be helpful? What are problems that you face? And again, you might even have these answers. So first start with asking yourself these type of questions, because you might, like from experience, have a lot of this stuff, but it's just kind of writing out the different things, whether it's friction points, decision-making problems your prospects have. When I think of document versus create, I think first and foremost, before you go create things, we talked about in the previous slides like what to do and how to go about creating stuff. But let's take a step back and figure out what to create. List out all the different kind of topics or friction points or questions, and think about what is the most important, what is the most popular, what is the most understandable or relatable topic, because the reason that's important is that gives you width, or it gives you the most exposure, it gives you the widest range topic versus something very, very specific to a smaller amount of people. So obviously you want to prioritize, if you're just getting started, things that can get you kind of the ball rolling, and it's not always stuff that's about what you do. It's never really about what you do in terms of writing content. And 2, it's not always about something very, very specific. It's kind of a little bit broader.
Agreed. And to that point, I recall being at Pipe Drive, we were kind of going through this process as well, and we realized that one thing that we weren't doing a great job of was aligning to where the buyers were in their journey, where they were thinking about, do they need a CRM right now, or do they still think that they can get by with a spreadsheet? If that's the case, yes, we can create spreadsheet templates that show that we're being helpful, we're providing value, because we know that there's only so far you can get with a spreadsheet. And as soon as you reach that point, you're going to fall off, and we're going to be right there to catch you. So that's just kind of something we did at Pipe Drive that was really effective, thinking about where the buyer is and how we can align what we're doing to what their pain points are. I know, Jack, you probably have some thoughts on this as well. What can you share with us here?
So if you're in sales now and you're just getting started, what I would tell you is that you need to learn how to properly find and curate content that'll drive conversation before you ever document or create conversation. And the reason that I say that is because in sales, your weapon to create conversation is quote unquote value. And when you share something that's not about somebody else, it's not something they've written, it's not something they're interested in, it's something you're interested in, then it doesn't work. And that's where a lot of salespeople go wrong on social. So start off by going and finding the prospects that are in your sales process right now. Go and find content that they've either created or it has some type of value to their company and to them, and go and start to share that. Learn how to share other people's content first. Because if you do that, what will happen is you'll start to see conversation, and this is where the short-term wins equal long-term gains. As you see that you can share other people's content, then I slowly would say that you start to integrate your own creation of content in there. But, you've got to use content strategically, and it's got to be one-to-one, outbound, focused to help you hit quota. Otherwise, you'll be wasting time.
Agreed.
Yeah. One thing to note here is, we all talked about like how to find content. If I were to go give myself this advice, my past self or future self advice on how to do this, I'm just getting started. Start with Googling top, whatever industry you're in, blogs, okay? You're going to find 10 different articles with like 4 or 5 different blogs or 10 different blogs, and just start following the links, right? I use Pocket. I love Pocket. You can also use Flipboard. So like if you're just like, I don't even have time to curate content and write anything about it, well, go use Flipboard and put that link in your signature, because Flipboard also has a place you can, it's similar to Pinterest, but more for like articles and things like that. You can create different boards, or I guess they call them magazines, but and then start using Flipboard, and you start just getting more and more, more and more good content. And after you start reading some of the surface level stuff, and you keep following the links. What I mean by following the links is when you read an article, they usually link to different places or more specific resources. Follow those links. If you like a blog, add it to Pocket, add it to Flipboard, and you'll never have time. Nobody does to read things on the fly. But what you do is you add it to like some sort of bookmarking site, again like Flipboard, Pocket, so that you can read it when you do have time. And pro tip that I use, I hate reading because I have a weird eye disease and I can only look at a computer for so long. So I actually use Pocket, and I have it. I listen to the article, so it pretty much reads to me. It's in a Siri voice, so not the best quality, but I don't have to read now or as much.
Wow, that's huge.
And I would say Feedly too. Feedly.com is $4.99, and it's a phenomenal way to find content and save yourself a ton of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, great tips, guys. Yeah, I would also say, just to add on to that as a last final point on this, don't be afraid to challenge something just because it's really popular. I'll give you an example. Cold calling is dead. You see that all day long. And in my world, I see SEO is dead all the time. And I know people are writing about that just to, raise eyebrows and get attention. But don't be afraid to challenge that head on. Write a rebuttal to something. If you, like Sujan said, if you Google top, X industry blog, whatever industry you're in, and you see something that catches your eye that you're like, I don't know if that really sounds right, challenge that person. Find your argument, find your proof, back it up with credibility, with the results that you've gotten that counter that point. Get it out there, you'll get lots of engagement, and that's how you get conversations started.
Yeah. One thing I think I'm going to kind of burst the bubble for people who have this excuse. I get people, I have a friend who's a marketing guy, and he is in he sells to construction workers or construction companies, right? Like, not a very sexy business, but he's in the marketing side, and he has about 10 to 12 different salespeople on the team. And what do you write about that's interesting to the masses or broader audience about construction? Well, what problems do people in the construction space have? Talk about how to work in a slow-moving industry, right? That's the problem. Like I guarantee you, every enterprise, any enterprise kind of person has that experience. Talk about what it's like, like go in front of it, saying what it is to work in a boring industry, how to do sales. I have an article coming out on how to do marketing with two hands tied behind your back, and it's from my experience working with large enterprise public companies and doing their marketing, when they said, okay, you can't do this, and they just kind of blocked me off from like everything I can do that's fun and creative. And so it ends up being, okay, just do the same thing I've been doing, but do it better somehow and get better results. But anyways, different topic, but like that might be something that's interesting. So think about what problems they have, or think about what's a little bit outside of their repertoire, like the industry. Like I used to work for a company called wheniwork.com doing HR, and it was a scheduling software for the SMB space, think like restaurants and retail coffee shops, the hourly workforce. Well, turns out if you read about how to do restaurant marketing tips, well, there's a million articles on that, actually probably 2 million. But if you talk about how to hire your first employee, how to manage, how to onboard, how to do these things, because it turns out most restaurant owners are first-time business owners. So we created content for first-time business owners. And there's only probably 15 other resources versus 2 million for restaurant-related content. So think beyond what you do.
That's huge. Talk about understanding your buyer. That's what it's all about right there. And I think the theme of this whole webinar has been value. I think to wrap it up here, let's go into some quick, simple techniques for starting the sales conversations. So I think this is kind of tying it all together here. I think the overarching theme so far has been provide value, get things going, but how do you take it and take it to the next step? How do you introduce the idea of there being a sales component to this? You're providing all this value. How do you start converting it? How do you start moving it down to where there's a more meaningful conversation having about your product or about your service or whatever the case is? What should you do when a prospect engages with your content? How can you collaborate with prospects to actually start sales conversations? Just because they like your content maybe doesn't necessarily mean that they want to talk to you right away. How do you get the attention of targeted prospects with your marketing? And what if you're in the case that you've been creating content but you're not generating leads and you feel like you're wasting your time? Like, I'm going to give this up. I've been writing all this stupid LinkedIn stuff. Nobody is engaging with me. I'm not getting requests for my service or whatever it is that you do. How do you navigate this? How do you tie it all together? Susan, I'll pass it to you first.
Look, yeah, at the end of the day, it takes time. So set the expectation to wait 3-6 months to kind of wait for content to catch up. I think also in your emails and your content, start ending it, or even start it with the preface of like asking for engagement. So what I did, I built my email list. We have about 40,000 people, and for the first year we built it to 40,000, and we never got a single sale from that. But what I did was I sent out an email, and now I do this regularly, and saying, hey, what's your biggest hurdle in marketing? What's your biggest hurdle with your company? It worked so well. So what ended up happening is we just got 1,000 responses, and people were just responding with like what their problems were. And the email was like, here's my biggest hurdle. So I was a little bit more transparent on that. But again, asking questions to your email list and your content in your social, and again, like the first thing, kind of tying it back to the first thing I said, was start with a question, because that's a quick hack to get kind of the best of all worlds. I think that's very important. I think if you're not getting engagement or you're not getting things, you're probably talking a little too much about yourself, to be honest. And usually, I would say 9 times out of 10, that's the case. So don't talk about yourself. Like, figure out a way to say something. So write a whole paragraph or tweet or LinkedIn update or whatever without mentioning what the heck you do. If you can do that, and you can do that repeatedly, generally you're going to solve that problem.
Awesome. Great tips. That's classic, sales 101 stuff right there. And I feel like it's so underlooked. Jack, I know you're kind of like the king of doing this, Jack. How do you do it?
So I'm just going to make this short and sweet because I know we're running out of time, but I would just say that just like anything else in sales, it's, you have to do the outbound piece. So you have to, at one time, once you've got a conversation started, you've got to move it offline. So, just the number one way that salespeople fail is they never do an ask, and that's offline and online. And so you just have to be strategic about how you do the ask, right? And a lot of times you can go to conversation. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. Go to content and see people that are sharing something. If you see a buyer sharing something and it's very interesting, they've written it, it's not that hard to share it and then get a little bit of engagement and say, hey, you know what? I would love to pick your brain on X, Y, and Z. Move that conversation offline and don't sell. You don't have to sell in the first call. Believe it or not, in sales. Believe it or not, you can be patient and you can actually be really consumed with how you can help that person on the other end. And the second, what I always like to do is I never sell on a first call. First call would be, hey, I've been reading a lot of your stuff. Holy cannoli, I've got customers that probably could use what you guys have to offer if it's a solution or if it's services, whatever it may be. That first touch point, move it offline, use insights and commonality from whatever the content is to move that offline, and then figure out how you can help them generate business, right? Who can you warm lead them into? Who can you introduce them to? How can you help them move the needle? And then usually at the end of that call, they usually ask you, what do you do? Because people are nobody ever just wants to give on a first call. They always want to take. So the competitive advantage is offer what you can do, and my guess is you probably won't even have to ask them to hear what you do. They'll ask you the question.
Exactly. Yeah, they'll be begging for it after a while. All right, so great points, guys. I think we are at the end here. I don't believe we have time for questions right now, so we'll just have to wrap it up. Sujan, before we close it off, man, thanks for being with us. Please tell everybody where they can find you, how can they get in touch with you, if they want to hit you up, how can they do that?
Yeah, so best place to go is my website, sujanpatel.com. If you can't spell it properly, it's fine. I'll also show up for Susan Patel. Anyways, or LinkedIn, guys. I'm fairly active on there, so add me, ask questions. I'm generally an open book, and if I don't answer your question directly, I usually make a video about it if it gets asked more than once. And thanks for having me. Super pumped.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate you being on board with us. Of course, if you want to reach Jack or myself, you can come to saleshacker.com. You can find us there. Jack, where can the audience find you if they want to hit you up?
Just hit me up on LinkedIn. Practice what I preach. Let's do this.
All right, yeah, if you want to hit me up, you can hit me up on Twitter at Gaetano_NYC. You can hit me up on LinkedIn, saleshacker.com. Any way you want, we're available. Thanks for being with us, guys. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Peace.
Thank you.